that actually works to restore the coral reefs off the coast of the Keys. So that was very, at least for me, something personal that really kept my attachment to this place. And then finally, when we got orders back, I was really excited. So I'm happy to be here. I took a director position with one of the largest political organizations currently in the country about a year ago. Decided not to go to medical school and really help save the nation. Figured it probably wasn't a good idea to practice medicine under socialism. So I took that position, and now I realize that, in Congress and currently in politics, you really have the DNC using identity politics to really not only divide the country, but really keep the minority voice really suppressed. And me being Hispanic American, that was something that I decided to actively make my personal fight. So I'm here and doing what I'm doing now, and we're going to flip the district back to red.
That's awesome. And that's what we all want to hear, right? That district does not need to be blue
Absolutely
at all.
not. It's one of the most important districts, too, in the country. A lot of people don't realize that, that what Charlie's doing, what he's representing, is really funding one of the most, in my opinion, worst smear campaigns against the American people, a sitting president, that we've ever seen in U.S. history, not to mention really pushing this whole false narrative of impeachment. So I'm absolutely not one to back down from a fight. I think Brock back here, my consultant, can vet for all of that, but I really hope to kind of show you guys what I'm all about and bring you along with me.
Yeah, and again, thank you for coming on the show and coming and sitting down with us, and we'll get into all the different topics today. So on top of just learning more about your campaign and everything, we are going to be talking about Turkey and Syria, that current situation that we have going on. We'll be talking about the NBA and China, and then we'll be getting into possibly a little bit about the Rays and them moving the stadium still. That's an ongoing thing that never seems to end. And then maybe a little bit about what's going on in the presidential race right now still as well.
Yeah.
So, but again, thank you for joining us. I know it's Indigenous People Day, if you haven't looked at your Apple calendar recently. So thank you guys all for coming out and making time on that day.
We all are thankful for Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, I did forget to ask all of you guys your pronouns before we. That's something we got to start.
Oh, we weren't going to let that one go,
no,
were we?
We're not.
If, and, but, when, where?
My pronouns are inappropriate
works?
for this podcast.
All right.
Keep it PG so we don't get in trouble here.
That's right. That's right. All right, guys. So we're gonna start off. Then we'll go. I think the biggest news of the past couple weeks, I mean, and it should be, if it's not the biggest news, is what's been going on with Turkey going into Syria, and I think that is a good jumping off point, right? Because we've got what I see here as you have two different viewpoints, I think, right now around the country, where you've got people who want to really turn to isolationism, and then you have also people that are, your traditional war hawks that do think that we need to be over there as well. And I think that the general consensus around this country is to go back and move into more of an isolationist policy where we're removing all the troops and everything. But then we do something like that, and now we see Turkey just immediately move in like the next day. So I'll hand the mic over to you guys and let you discuss kind of what do you think about this, and where do you guys stand on what just happened?
So I'll go ahead and just kind of start off a little bit, probably because I'm the most behind on the Turkey-Syria situation. And so I will.
So you want to lead off?
She's honest, more honest than most.
of a rant going on here with Turkey and Syria, but so the way that I kind of look at the Turkey-Syria situation right now really isn't a Turkey-Syria situation. It's a Turkey-Kurds situation, and that conflict has been long-standing. And I don't know that we really need to be in the middle of that with two of our allies. I don't know kind of how I feel about us fully leaving Syria. I mean, I think it's important that as Americans we have a presence in areas that have unrest. But at the same time, I don't think we should spend a lot of money on those things. I don't think we should put our troops in danger for those things. And I just don't really know what that line is that we tote, right, as peacekeepers or not. But I think that we can't be in the middle of this particular conflict, right? I don't think that just us being there, the minute we leave anywhere, the situation was going to happen, right?
Well,
and
remember,
so I'm kind of in between on that.
And remember, we adopted a stance on Syria after the Obama administration. So right there, we're kind of, it's not really his war that he's put together. It's him trying to figure out a way to get out of the situation. That's the president. I like the idea of the president trying to find out ways to get out of wars that we are still in, the Afghanistan, the Iraq situation, and then with the Middle East still having a problem. We have ships moving into the Gulf, the Persian Gulf, because of Iran and Saudi Arabia and the escalations there. And I think opening another field of battle wouldn't be. I think we're also only talking about 50 troops.
I think it was about 2,000 though in total, wasn't it?
Well, 2,000 or.
I think the biggest thing from at least what I was seeing from my perspective is really that you had people that had either deployed there, like for example, my husband was at the invasion of Mosul and he worked very closely with the Kurds. And so for him, it was like a personal tie and connection to these people that really swore allegiance to the United States and were promised that the United States would help recognize them as a country. So I do think that there's that key compromise that I think President Trump is so good at, is sealing the deal, right? So we're already seeing him really put heavy sanctions on Turkey, which I fully support. And we all know that when it comes down to the world scene and how really governments work is its finances, right? So I do think that Turkey will listen to the president and heed that and really back off on the attack on the Kurdish people. But I also think on the world stage, if the president really goes and backs and fully acknowledges and honors Turkey, or not Turkey, but the Kurdish people with that, that's exactly what they want, right? They helped us eliminate ISIS. We also did them a favor because ISIS was not a friend of the Kurds. And, you know, I think that, again, though, I do support our troops coming home. I don't think that we really need to be there when we have a lot of issues here that are left unfixed, to include really a soft coup against a sitting president of the United States from within.
Yeah.
I have to say that when it comes to Kurdistan, that the Kurds people that are right there, that population is in 3 or 4 countries, running the gamut of Iraq, Iran, Turkey, and then Syria.
Yeah.
And so so there's a different conversation that we have to have when we had those individuals when we were in Iraq. And those individuals, North Iraq is very much autonomous. They have their own positions, they have their own government, but it bleeds into Syria that we also use, and then it bleeds into Turkey and into Iran. So that whole dynamic is such a unique perspective, because you think, oh, we're giving up on them. No, we are removing ourselves from that position in Syria. It's not that we've given up on them in
We're
Iraq.
still supporting.
Yeah,
Yes.
I see. This is where I look at it. I think that you hit on the point at the beginning, is that there was an allegiance almost between our troops and the Kurds, and they've been helping us fight a war for many, many years. And I do think that a lot of people that were there, they are kind of look at it like we are really just leaving them a little bit abandoned, a little bit stranded, and that's kind of where I think that with Trump, it becomes more of a political posturing, right? Because he's been talking about how he wants to bring troops home from basically everything, and I agree with that. I don't think we should be involved in conflicts that we shouldn't be involved with, but the reality is that we've been involved with conflicts for a really long time, and so like as soon as we
Over 20 years.
as soon as we do something like this abruptly, without something in place to stop it from happening, it kind of puts it allows for tanks to roll in the next day.
Well, let's not forget about the propaganda that they're using too. I think it was ABC that got busted showing some footage that they were claiming to be an attack on the Kurds and happening in Syria, and it was actually from an air show. And that recently just came out. So I think that there's this aspect of we are not fully abandoning. If we were, President Trump wouldn't be raising the steel tariffs back up to 50%, and that's going to absolutely hurt Turkey. So I promise you it will stop at people, again, looking at it from an economic perspective, and really the hand that this president has on a global scale, to where countries now respect the United States once again and want nothing more than to trade with us and to work with us. It's absolutely going to bring, I think, the exact result that we're expecting, but it is that kind of uncomfortable position, because there were people who wanted 100% constant war in the Middle East time and time again. I'm not a war hawk. I obviously support a strong military budget and exactly what we're doing, but I don't think that we need to be putting our men and women in harm's way. I mean, for God's sakes, we have people now pushing for red flag laws that are really targeting and affecting our veterans. So I think that that's the last thing we need right now.
And we don't have to have one or the other. You don't have to be completely isolationist and also or completely a pro for the war machine. There's no need for
compromise.
Exactly. And I think this is a very good compromise. Yes, we're still putting our troops into the Middle East in regards to Saudi Arabia, but we're removing them in other fields. And so that's the kind of compromise that I think as a nation we need to start understanding, that yes, that's happening over there. We have so many issues happening here in the States.
I'm not going to disagree with you guys that there's not a lot of problems here that we need to be focused on. But when we talked about this a little bit when we were talking about Iran and Iraq a couple shows ago, but the power vacuum that's going to be left when we start basically announcing to the world that we're not going to be involved anymore could be very bad 5-10 years from now, because the people that are coming into power are not people we want to start to be in power. They're people that have been very mad at us for a very long time, right? So I think we might see some things that are inadvertently going to pop up in the next 5 or 10 years
mad
because
at
we're
us
doing.
because we're there.
Well, exactly.
I think it's
But they're
important.
not going to be unmad at us when we leave.
But that's the
like,
thing.
That's not
okay. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't.
That's exactly
Do we
the
want to be the
situation,
police of the
yeah.
world? No.
No,
But
I
do
don't.
we also want the world to burn? No. Compromise.
I
Where's
think it's
the middle?
important to remember, and actually, you guys are gonna laugh, but I'm actually wearing a coin, and it's from the Crusades, and it's actually a registered artifact. And I think that it's important to remember that these wars have been taking place since way before our time. They will continue afterwards, but again, through economic sanctions is really how you're going to get these countries to kneel. If you want to trade with the United States, if you want to do business with us, then you must adhere to our standards, and I
Yeah.
do believe on that. It's not our job to go into other countries and tell them what to do.
I agree with that for the most part, but from what I'm unsettled about a little bit with this is that, like, we're talking about Turkey. We're talking about people who have an Armenian genocide under their belts that they won't acknowledge even happened.
Yeah, but
right?
Turkey's
So-
also a NATO ally. Like
We
that's
have
the
bases
other
there.
point.
But the thing is, like,
have
we don't.
bases there.
But we don't even talk about the fact that we should not be in such an allied position with that kind of state. I mean, Erdogan is not somebody that we should be like buddy with,
Yeah,
right?
but
I mean, and
Erdogan
That
is
was-
not
and
buddy
when they
with
have
the
a
Russians.
But when they're-
bad relationship either. Like maybe we don't need to be buddy best friends, but we have to kind of be respectful of each other and our stances.
That's a very strategic base for us.
it's very strategic for us, but I again, what I worry about is that we're going to see basically an ethnic cleansing in the same way they did it with the Armenians 100 years ago. So, and it's like if we completely
haven't-
pull out of all of these type of things, it's something
us
like this could
keeping
happen.
100 troops there would have not
Yeah.
stopped
It's not
an
gonna
ethnic
stop that,
genocide.
yeah.
Us placing sanctions to where they will literally crumble if they can't trade with us will.
Turkey is not Uruguay. Like it's not a small country. It's a very large country that needs the economic power of the dollar to be able to function as a multinational country.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest trading partners around the world.
They're one
in
of the
regards
most
to
westernized,
Yes.
to be honest with
And
you.
that's
I mean,
the thing. The geopolitics, and sorry for cutting you off, the
You're fine.
geopolitics of Turkey strategically in that location, being able to hold Russia from going into the Mediterranean, from getting out of the Black Sea, for it holding back what's happening in Iran. That's the thing. Do we piss off Turkey so then they're upset with us, and now we have two problems in the Middle East when Saudi Arabia itself trying to figure again, we're in the middle of a Cold War. This could have been started with what are the two? I'm forgetting the West Wing episode when they talk about why
You
the
plugged the
Jews.
West Wing.
I know why the Jews and the Arabs have been in conflict for their entire lives. And this has started thousands of years ago, and we have to allow the same way the Christians went through their what's it called? Reformation, we have to allow the Muslim community to do the same thing.
if I could just to take it on a lighter note, there's
Yeah.
an organization that I've worked closely with for a very long time. It's called Global Surgical Medical Support Group. And I was actually supposed to be there with them, of which Brock over there was like, probably not a good idea on your campaign, which thank God I did not go. But they're actually over there right now providing humanitarian aid and medical training to the Kurds. And so if you guys do want to donate and really like actually help out the country, you can go to gsmsg.org or .com. You can find it on Google and donate there. So
Awesome, that's good.
Right.
Good plug. That's a good plug.
Yeah, let's maybe get that up on the Facebook somewhere.
Global
too, or the
Surgical
Instagram.
Medical Support Group.
Yeah, and then so I mean, do you guys have anything else that you wanted to say about that? I mean, it's a pretty serious topic. It's not a lighthearted one by any means, and it's complicated, right? Like it's like talking about Iran and Iraq like we did a couple weeks ago. There's a lot of factors.
My closing statement: the best thing would be on a national scale to recognize them as their own country, their own government, and I think that would be upholding our end of the deal. And honestly, they've been in negotiations with local governments in those areas as well. So I think that's the best thing that we could do with them, and then obviously levy those sanctions.
Well, to me, if that's how we were pulling out, and that's the solution that we had coming out, I would be all for that. But I'm not sure if that's on the table with what's going to actually get put in right now.
A statement by the president about the sanctions that was released probably about 2 hours ago.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did some research before we came in too. Yeah, I looked
read
at
the
the
entire
sanctions were
thing.
coming through. But like, I think that recognizing them as their own country, though, I just
Cause a huge.
We have to take. You have to take from somewhere.
Yeah, I see a much bigger problem with that. I don't know that should be something that we're involved in. Like, if they can work out their own negotiations and say,
Well, there's not going to be a
"We've already-"
negotiation. There's going to be tanks rolling in like there was last week. I mean, there's no negotiation.
No, I'm just saying, if there was a situation where the Kurds said, okay, hey, we have this like little plot of land and we're cool with all the people that own this land right here in this little circle, and if you could just support us, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, Israel
then
tried
like
that.
I'm kind of okay with that. But I don't think that we should be in the middle of that where we have so much going on over there. Plus, we have allies and enemies. And
again, the land that we're talking about is already straddling 4 countries.
Yeah,
to get those countries to work out how they're going to divide themselves is almost impossible. And it would cause a war.
But, I mean, there basically already is a war, though.
There's already a war constantly.
Exactly.
So I mean, again, I don't think we're going to solve it on this podcast, but I'm glad to have everybody thinking about it in a way that I think is pointed in the right direction. So, all right, then.
Just a bunch of dictators.
I'm glad we have the sanctions now. I think that's the only way that something's going to happen.
Speaking of sanctions and dictators, why don't we move? I'm working on.
This is a great topic today, guys.
I'm working on transitions.
Jake is the king of transitions.
And so
I've never seen so many hard left turns in
of-
my life.
So that moves us. No, it does.
Speaking
it moves us
about smallpox.
It moves us straight into China. It does. It moves us straight into China, and it moves us into where we were talked a little bit about the
He's
show.
gonna get flagged later on. By the way, they're listening to him as we speak.
I'm so
Hi,
excited.
China.
I will say this right now. If we can get banned in China alongside of South Park and everybody
And
else,
Winnie the Pooh.
and
Did
Winnie the
anyone
Pooh,
bring a Winnie the Pooh like doll? Oh, we should have.
if we can get banned in China, our clout is
like
going to be way up here.
a Winnie
Guys,
the
we are going to be.
Like
I'm
right
fine with
here.
that.
Life
Winnie
accomplishments
the Pooh
banned
right
in
here.
China.
Yeah. I will be very happy with this podcast. if
I
we can
was
get banned.
not impressed by the wall of China. I was not impressed at all by that thing.
Did you go to the wall?
Yes, it was just too much walking. It
All
was
right.
ridiculous.
lot of
So
walking.
the actual topic here, though, is that if this happened last week, right around the same time we were doing this other podcast, so we didn't get a chance to fit it in. Basically, the Rockets GM put out a 7-word tweet. Basically, and it caused an international incident. Right? It's all he said was that he basically stood for Hong Kong and democracy. That's it. That's all he said. And there wasn't any real position there, just that democracy. And China was not happy. They called all the executives at the NBA and they said that, we cannot stand for this. They started pulling games from the airwaves in China. And then the biggest story that came out of that is that the NBA came out like the next day and apologized. And you have the commissioner of the NBA coming out and apologizing to communist China and saying to them, we're sorry, we'll make sure that we, monitor what people say. But then they had to come and backtrack about it a couple days later. Mm-hmm. And what they were able to do is kind of go, oh, well, no, we're going to allow them to still have free speech. But
That's great of them. That's like a First Amendment kind of thing. How
Yeah.
nice of them.
Did you see their faces? The cringiness of them, like trying to read out loud the statements, with them like knowing that in their back of their minds, I'm a hypocrite, because you can see them say, I'm a hypocrite for reading the statement out loud and putting myself in this position that there's no way to win in this way at all, and just showing that you're just here for the money. That's all it is here. It's just a McGuire like meme going, just you're here for the money. Just show me the money. That's all the NBA is asking for.
Yeah, it's the thing is that you have, again, you've got a league in the NBA. Like, I'm an NBA fan. I love sports. I love basketball. But what's happening here is that we have coaches who openly come out like once a week and criticize Donald Trump, right? And they're like praised for it. And they come out, and you have Steve Kerr over in Golden State, and he comes out.
They're clout chasers.
Not just clout chasers.
They 100% are.
They are. But they're out there, and they're criticizing the United States president every single week. And there's no NBA backlash over there. They're not apologizing for what their coaches are saying then. They're allowing them to say that. But then as soon as they say it about a communist regime and the current situation that has concentration camps and things like that going on, then they're like, whoa, we need to apologize. Like that, like the hypocrisy there is, it's not even hypocrisy.
About the Benjamins, baby.
I just think.
Yeah, but you know what the thing is? There's money to be made in the United States too, and they're still.
It's not committing human rights violations.
Yeah,
it's a new market, and their yang gets deposited into their accounts in greenback. They love it. Again, the NBA only makes about $8 billion. They're kowtowing to Nike, and that's the big one. Nike is probably pulling the strings at the NBA because
we know Nike loves China.
Oh, loves China. Their factories are there. The children are there. I mean, they're so great stuff. And so by Nike pushing, and Nike's like a $40 billion company.
Yeah.
And that's China's putting pressure on Nike. Nike's putting pressure on the NBA, and we just see the hypocrisy of it all. Everyone in the NBA is so awake all of a sudden about all this other stuff. Woke. And now I don't believe in that.
Are they woke?
You don't have a mic. You cannot.
I'll
make
say
these
it for you,
comments.
Johnny. Woke.
It's completely awake. And
Not today.
They don't have not today. And so this is just the hypocrisy of how they are expressing themselves and showing really that they're just there for the money. They're there just to bash on Americans and bash on Trump. And everyone sees it. And because everyone sees it, now no one's going to believe whatever they say ever again.
Basketball's an American pastime. Back your nation.
Yeah, whatever happened to like the West, like spreading out their values and
circling back to Hong Kong,
Oh,
most of the youth in Hong Kong now, if you look at a Prager video, know more about the U.S. than most of our college students do. So I think that that's kind of interesting to see that they are literally begging and playing for some of the things that we take for granted.
Yeah.
And you have an organization like the NBA not even backing those people. And that's really sad because to me, obviously freedom is our inherent right to life, literally. And you're just seeing them completely cower. So I obviously don't support what the NBA said. I mean, they should be backing free speech. They should be backing those coaches. They should be literally something to show that they sympathize with the people of Hong Kong.
They absolutely should. And then the other thing too is that, I mean, it's just, to me, I hate seeing people bow down to the mob. And like, this is bowing down to like a communist mob, right? Like, this is like, it's crazy to me that they came out and apologized so quickly. And it's like, I mean, like, seriously, like, have some cojones. Like, you're the NBA. Like, you're like, they're not gonna, like, they can stop showing you on their TV channels, but you know what? They're gonna still stream it on their VPNs and their, you know, their their internet that they still have there. I mean, you're bigger than, like, they may not think that they're bigger than China, but they're bigger than China. Their brand is bigger than China, and like, they can hold them.
The fact that they're bowing on an international
Yes.
stage, making us look bad, I have an issue with that.
yeah.
Absolutely.
However, I do love that this puts a lot of attention on Hong Kong and what's happening there. And
It does,
And the democratic movement and the democracy that's moving into that city now. And honestly, and I was thinking about this for a really long time, how the outcome of a independent Hong Kong would look like, if it's gonna look with blood on the streets or with like a Boston massacre, or well, no, I was thinking, like, is it gonna look like the spark is gonna have to be like a Boston massacre, or is it gonna look like the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989?
You know what's hilarious? That what if
Berlin Wall probably?
I don't
even have
I don't
firearms.
even think it's gonna look like the Berlin Wall. And the reason why I say that I think that is because the moment that China allows for Hong Kong to be released, Macau is going to want it, and then Taiwan's going to want it, and then you have parts of Tibet, and that just builds into, it's the same thing when it comes to the SS.
You know what's hilarious though is that what if, like, this tweet is what sets off all of their independence and like this giant war and everything like that.
Be.
And it is funny because it could be, and it's like you look back at like World War I when like this is like an assassination was what started it off, and it's like
And
now
now
it's
it's a
like
tweet.
in 2019 it's like a tweet that starts off an entire world war. And I just think it's just something to like reflect on.
A world
bit.
exit.
Yeah.
World exit. I mean, again, I love that we're laughing about this, but CNN did a really good deep dive in what's happening in Hong Kong, and the kids that are getting arrested, and the people are getting bookmakers are getting put into prison. And I mean, the best thing that could have ever happened to Hong Kong, honestly, was it being a British colony. And what the Brits left them was rule of law, freedom of speech, the concepts of democracy. They didn't leave them democracy, but they left them all the sweets of it. And the moment that gets taken away from a population, you can't do anything but fight back. Mm-hmm. The beauty of it. And so I am really much looking forward to see what happens. I really hope it's not violent, but in that situation, it's a very highly educated population. They're very young. They're going to have to fight for it because China's not going to let it go, because the moment Hong Kong goes, the concept of China that we have now is gone.
I just thought my whole kind of take on this NBA Hong Kong thing, and just to like bring us back to people talking about it and bringing it to the forefront. A while back when all the athletes were taking a knee and everybody was getting all riled up, my stance on that was keep it off the field. And my stance on this is keep it off sports. So I can't really say to keep our things out of sports and don't use that platform for one thing and then not say it for this as well. And so I just feel like this has been like, even though it's a forum that brings light to it, I just don't think these are the right forums to do it in. Like I saw when they were removing patrons from the stands because they had signs. You know what? They should. I don't have any problem with that. It's a game. You have paid to come watch a game on somebody else's property. You're in an arena. Somebody else should be able to kind of stop you from doing that. And I can't support one and not the other. And so, like, I just think that these aren't the platforms that we should be using for these.
Do you think that the NBA brought this upon themselves, though, because they allowed their players and coaches to be so vocal and so anti?
But they let them be vocal against us. They can let them be vocal for or not with Hong Kong. I mean, if they're letting them be vocal or not vocal, it's not my business. If they don't like it, they shouldn't work for them. And that's the same thing that I said before, too, is like, I can't talk about politics at work, and I don't think that other people should be doing it either. I can't sit up here and say my company's name and say anything and relate the two, right? Because that's wrong. I shouldn't be doing that. My company shouldn't be taking my stances. And I think the same thing with the NBA.
Well, we have this in regards to some members of our own organization and their fields. They're not even allowed to talk about where they work or where they're a part of because of the ramifications that will go to politicizing. Don't get me wrong. I understand your position. I kind of understand it, and I believe that it is correct. But I also think that the NBA gave themselves this wide opening. If they're allowing for commentary, negative with the country, negative with the president, negative and conservatives, then allowing the pendulum to swing on the other side should have it. When it came to the NBA,
but they get to decide what they want to do, right? It goes back to that's their freedom and that's their choice. And I'm sorry, but as a Republican and a conservative, I don't think anything should be stifled. And so if that company wants to allow that to happen, then that's up to us as consumers to say, like, we're either okay with that or we're not okay with that. But it's not up to us as a population of people just to criticize them one way or the other. I can't say that I want freedom to do what I want to do at my business and then not hold another business to the same thing.
Was it on his personal Twitter or NBA Twitter?
It's personal Twitter.
See, so then what does that have to do with anything?
See, that's how I feel too. I'm like,
it's not even involving his job. It's his personal Twitter. So that already separated. So they chose to actively get involved and therefore brought it upon themselves.
Yeah, we've talked about this a long time ago, but I've always felt that, it's like, look, we use our platform to talk about it. We don't even have a platform. If I was in the NBA, I'd use my platform to talk about it and say the same things that I'm saying now. And so
But it was a personal platform.
Yeah. But I mean,
we created a political platform to be able to talk about these things.
But
and
I mean,
if you want
but
to
if
talk
you're
about
creating
it
a Twitter,
personally, you can. But do you talk about it through your business?
Well, not through the business, but neither does LeBron James when he tweets it out. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. It's the same thing. It's personal Twitter. But
his
their
personality is his business.
Exactly.
It is his brand, and then they are contracted to work for these large conglomerates. That they probably have rules and things against us too. Like,
no,
they have
personality. The NBA is actually one of the few that have no.
They completely allow everybody to speak as they want,
which is why
he was able to say that.
But this is why everyone is so upset about the NBA.
Is that if you can say what you want, then
that's what I'm
why
saying.
can't you say it about Hong Kong?
The NBA was one of those organizations that allowed anyone to say whatever. And again, they didn't care because they were talking about the president and they were bashing him the whole time. And now that it's pushed back, now they're trying to clamp
But it's insane. We're talking about criticizing a communist regime. Like it's nuts to me that this is what did it.
Human rights violations.
Like this
I'm still stuck on the concentration camps that no one talks about.
Yeah, and it's like, so this is what was too far. This is what it's crazy.
This was the line.
This was the line.
This was the line.
Yeah.
Hey,
so
it's all about the money.
And what's insane is that it actually
is all about the money. That's why they're upset, because they're about to lose money from Hong Kong.
But it's funny because both Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz both came out on the same side. Yeah, Robert.
It's cultural appropriation.
Thank you so much. Finally, there's someone else in this room that doesn't. Yes, exactly. As Latinos, we understand that.
His name's Robert. He's always been Robert.
His name is not Beto.
Okay.
Beto.
We have.
My God,
by the way, we have laughed about this before.
Is that where that
comes
from?
Yes. His name is Robert.
Oh, that's good. He's in my notes anyway to talk about the church tax exemption.
Such a white Anglo-Saxon.
So either way,
culturally appropriating Hispanic culture.
Warren.
You have talked about this before. All I was going to say about that.
All
I was going to say about that is that they came. They came out on the exact same side of this and both criticized the NBA. But if you guys want to talk about Beto and all that, please.
I will say this from a voting demographic. Let's just be honest. No one gave a crap about immigration or immigration reform until 2016 when President Trump talked about it. The largest voting minority in this country is Hispanic Americans in 2020, specifically Mexicans. That's why they're saying, one, all illegals are Mexicans, and why all Hispanics are now Mexicans. He can tell you not all Hispanics are Mexicans.
Nope.
So this is 100% propaganda. That whole pitch with Beto saying that his name is Beto, it's actually Robert. That is 100% politics. We don't agree with it. There are such things as conservative Hispanics. We are going to come out and force to vote for the president. And I will say this, aside from that, if we weren't such a threat, then why are we being censored?
Yeah, and you're also in Tampa specifically. I mean, we have, almost half of the board of the Tampa Young Republicans are Hispanic. And you're seeing that in almost all of these other groups, and especially in Florida, especially in Central Florida.
People are annoyed. We're tired of it. It is literally not okay what they're doing. They sent down literally cameras to the borders, filmed women and children, and then dipped out. I'm sorry, when you have the DNC voting against comprehensive immigration reform 3 times, and then you know that the number one most impacted community are minority communities from an open border, meaning the Black and Hispanic, like lower income areas. I'm sorry, but people that have come here legally know the process. They know that people get hurt on both sides when it's not done the correct way. So why would you not be for that unless you're really trying to create single issue voters? And that's exactly what the DNC is doing.
This is also a large demographic that has gone through the immigration process, have become citizens, know more about the American
Dream.
history and American dream
than we do,
that
that
we
have been
live
born
every
here.
single day. We've seen it from our parents. We've seen it from our grandparents, the suffering that they had to do to make sure that we had better lives, which we will do when we have children and make sure our children have better lives. We are the best example when it comes to the American dream. It's happening all over the country, and it frustrates and annoys, and honestly, it's disrespectful to Hispanic Americans seeing the pandering that's happening.
We
like,
speak English, first
I know,
of all.
exactly.
I was trying to explain this to someone. I was like, for outreach, like, why would you, you don't go up, but you don't go up to someone who's Black and start speaking like Kenyan to them. You know what I'm saying? So why would you automatically go up to someone who's born in the United States and start speaking Spanish as if they're too stupid to know the own language that we've assimilated into? It's our country too. It's this really awkward time in America where people are tired of it. It looks absolutely ridiculous on the national stage to completely block out people that don't even speak Spanish and then butcher the Spanish in the process, which Cory Booker wonderfully displayed to everyone.
And so is that part
Castro
of?
was bad.
It was so. I mean,
His
it's
setbacks
bad.
was so
It
bad.
was bad.
And
It
I
was
think
bad.
I think that's something that is going to really play into the the election coming in 2020.
And
that
how
the
much
Hispanic,
how much of that is part of why you're running, or is that
a month into doing outreach, I knew I was going to be running. So 110%, because you have this entire voting demographic that's really been one, lied to, two, exploited, three. I've worked with conservative DACA recipients, okay? And they say end DACA because literally it's encouraging people to come here. And let me tell you about how I grew up. This was an awful experience. I don't want people to have to go through the same thing. And then you're seeing the entire DNC saying, oh yeah, let's get welfare benefits for illegals. I'm going to tell you something. I grew up in the welfare program. That is a cycle of poverty that you don't want to be a part of. It's very hard to break out of. So I'm not even looking at this from a perspective of, I don't want, these people to not have access to the American dream. Encouraging someone to join the welfare system and come here legal is not the American dream.
No, it's completely opposite.
At
I mean,
all.
like, I explained it to somebody the other day. Actually, we were talking about this. It's like, imagine if during Ellis Island, like, all these immigrants that came hungry and ready to work and live that American dream, like, they were just like handed like food stamps or something, and then they're just like,
you can't even get married.
Yeah.
If you're in welfare, you cannot get married. So come here, we'll help you out. You can't get married. Now you can only make this much. If you make more than that, you're gonna be homeless. And by the way, your kids are probably gonna end up in gangs and lower income areas, and probably like not even have a blue collar or maybe a blue collar job because of the fact that you are gonna be in these cycles to where you're basally in financial servitude.
it's government control. It's government control.
who we are.
And so have you put out like maybe campaign points or anything like that you're specifically about?
I did an article with the Daily Wire. So Ben Shapiro actually tweeted it, and it has kind of my outline as to what I want to accomplish once I get into office.
Okay.
They'll have to get through the primary first.
That's fine. And then we also
Vote
do
for
have
me.
we do have your campaign video. Do we have that queued up, Johnny?
Yeah, ready to go.
So we're gonna run this real quick, just so that our audience can see it. Now that we're, we've got a decent audience tuning in live, so I appreciate that to everyone that's watching. And then we're just gonna plug you a little bit so people can see a little bit more about what you're about.
Then I'll tell you why I shadow banned. Grit, determination, love of country, conservative values, fight. That's what I learned growing up. I had to. I'm Anna Paulina Luna, Air Force veteran, proud conservative Latina, warrior for our values, our Constitution, and our country. And now I'm running for Congress. Where I grew up, kids couldn't just leave. We had to fight our way out. My grandmother died of heroin use. My family fought addiction. Many of them ended up homeless. But my mom, she's my real hero. She raised 3 kids through a string of abusive relationships and still put herself through law school. That's fight. I knew to get out, I'd have to fight too. So I did. I joined the Air Force at 19. Immediately, my drill instructors underestimated me, but believe me, I proved them wrong. I graduated basic training, top of my class, was elected president of the Airmen's Council, and was the first person selected for early promotion. And the Air Force is where I met my amazing husband, Andy, an Air Force special operator who's earned a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star. When he was shot in Afghanistan, it really opened my eyes to the hardships our veterans face when they come home. I saw firsthand how previous presidents had put our fighting men and women at risk, and I knew that supporting President Trump was non-negotiable. As you can see, I'm sure as hell not a politician. I won't ever stand here and lie to you. On immigration, common sense is to first secure our border. But career politicians care more about getting reelected than doing the right thing. The stakes are high. But like you, I will never back down from this fight. My mission is clear: to protect life, our borders, our families, our God-given rights, our country. I'm Anna Paulina Luna, and I approve this message.
And so you're shadow banned from that?
Yeah. So apparently, out the gates, Instagram didn't like it, so they shadow banned that posting. I had people, actually, there's a big account called Millennial Republicans on Instagram.
We're all on there.
They
now.
sent me literally a recording of them not being able to like my video, share it, not engage with it. So I ping Facebook because they run Instagram. They're like, oh, we have a bug. And then the bug happened to deactivate my donation link about 28 times. 2 dates, and then on top of that, we tried to run a geo-targeting ad with that on Facebook, and Facebook said that it was a danger to the community. So apparently, if you are not a POS, you're a danger to the community.
Isn't that nuts? I mean, like, so did they say it was because of just like guns in it?
They didn't. They
like,
didn't give
what
a reasoning
no?
for it. For Instagram, they said it was a bug. And the bug just happened to strike my account.
But isn't that crazy? Isn't that so crazy? I mean, like, we've talked about shadow banning and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the censorship that's happening to conservatives. I mean, like, you're just getting started in your campaign too. Like,
I was literally shadow banned out the gates. I've been shadow banned on Twitter. In fact, 13 hours following the El Paso shooting. After I'd gone down there, I was actually banned from Twitter. They let me come back on, but they basically said, because I had a tweet on that said that I was a conservative, that I still had my conservative Hispanic American that still wanted the Second Amendment, and I wasn't going to let the mainstream media politicize El Paso and call for a firearms ban, that was apparently me being violent towards the community, and I was locked out of Twitter. So, out the gates, I am a threat. And unfortunately, sorry to interrupt, but it's considered an in-kind contribution. So I know Charlie has some powerful friends, but I have very powerful friends too. So
do you have any idea on how we can kind of curb that type of behavior from some of these social media companies that are? So
unfortunately, I think it's going to take intervention at the national scale through legislators. And unfortunately, this has not obviously happened to just me. It's happening to everyone. And Matt Gaetz has been really key in like pushing for that legislation. So I was kind enough to send him the information I had, and he's obviously come out to endorse me and one of my allies in the fight. So I'm obviously not going to be going anywhere anytime soon, and that's going to be one of my issues once I'm able to get into office. But yeah, it's not okay, because at the end of the day, if you censor someone that doesn't agree with you, and mind you, I'm not the type of quote-unquote conservative that puts out really volatile information. I'm pretty respectful. I'm very open-minded. I'm open to open dialogue. But when you look at me as a threat as a candidate, and then you're then interfering with my ability to fundraise, that's election interference.
Yeah.
So you don't do that.
You know what's crazy though is that I was just listening to Rachel Maddow talk on one of these liberal podcasts about how they would prefer Facebook and all of these companies to literally just ban all political advertisement, and so they don't have to deal with it, and then like they'll stop any of this kind of like possible potential fake news type. I mean, but again, we're talking about congressional ads. It's crazy that that's
money. They're not going to say no to that kind of money.
Yeah,
well,
they're letting the money
the
come through.
amount of money that's going to go into those social networks. I mean, even the Trump administration is pouring millions.
they're probably
They
their biggest
won't,
purchaser,
but the problem is that they're not allowing for the message to get out, and then even then, so they're not even looking for just banning political ads. It's if you are considered a danger to the community and you offend someone,
Yeah.
which frankly, everyone's offended these
Yes.
days. And I'm
You get
sorry, but
offended
like
with
me
anything.
not agreeing, you know, like if you want to call yourself a rock, call yourself a rock. But like, don't try to make me call you a rock, you know? And I really do have that viewpoint. It's just so many people are saying that they're offended because they don't like what you have to say. It might not even be something offensive.
Yeah.
And that's their reasoning for silence.
I think we're going to need to check and see if becoming a rock is a choice in the gender dictionary that just came out.
There should be like a checkbox somewhere, right?
When it
Like
comes to
on
which
all
genders?
forms, it should say like I'm a girl, I'm a boy,
Here's
I'm
my
a
thing.
rock.
Like if
I'm a
you,
rock. I think their option should
it's
be
just
rock.
like people look like I don't. If you want to do that, like go ahead, call your. But like if I look at you and I'm like, okay, well, you look like a woman. I'm gonna like don't try to force your
But isn't
ideologies
it-
on me. That's
but
like
isn't
me
it-
forcing my religion on you.
Yeah.
you
Isn't
know?
it one of those things that, I mean, like, I know you guys didn't want to talk about pronouns too long today
Sorry,
or anything like
yeah, I
that.
didn't
but,
mean to bring
but
up the
here we
rock
are.
thing, but
and
it
so,
was-
and so, no, but genuinely, like,
That's
I mean, like,
called a transition. Very good.
okay, you know, I thought the other one was good too. But anyway,
I'll be back next week, guys.
No, but the thing is
Check her out.
that when you have a like you said, like I think that with millennials and our age group of Republicans, we don't necessarily care. We're not going to be preaching to you what you should or shouldn't be doing in your private life, but
No.
the concern is what you're supposed to be like told to say on social
You
media, told to
cannot
say
force
in writing.
people.
And we were talking about this earlier, is that, now we're moving to the point where we're talking about teaching our kids and we're talking about putting it into public schools, into public, I mean, for example, I know people that work in the public sector in like Broward County and places around the state
Private
where it's
sector.
like now it's part of your email footer, right? Like, okay, well, here's my name, here's my email, and then here's my pronouns. Make
I
sure
think that
it's
society
like,
needs to
Lord.
be becoming so like obsessed with sex. Excuse my
Yeah.
language, and to be frank, but like, first of all, I don't care like what you do on your free time,
Mm-hmm.
and I also stop trying to force your ideologies onto me. I'm not sitting there and saying, "Hey, if you don't do this, you're a bad Christian. You're going to hell." Like
Yeah.
I would never say that. So that to me is the same thing. You are forcing your ideologies onto me. I don't agree with that. I think it's not okay.
And don't you think that's kind of like the direction that our party is headed? I would say is because what I see is that, like, I think that if your older generation of Republicans may have been standing out there telling people and
I
saying
think that there's older generations in general that do it on both sides.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
people still do it. I don't think it's necessarily Democrat or Republican. I think the problem is that you have big tech coming in saying that you have to do something, and if you don't, you're the problem. I don't agree with that, and I'm probably not liked because of that, but I don't really care, because if I cared in the first place, I wouldn't be running for Congress.
well, you're probably well liked on our side of the aisle.
Yeah,
but-
I mean, but, and you know what's surprising is like when I do have friends that are very liberal
Yeah.
and like hardcore Democrats, and they still like me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a likable person.
Well,
so.
that's because that's again, it's because of the thing though. I feel like it's pretty reasonable to separate the two
yeah, I use
things,
the
right?
rock argument a lot, and they're like, "Oh, it makes sense."
So I mean, so I'll ask all you guys, pose this question to everybody. What do you think the direction of the Republican Party looks like looking into this next election and then into the future with when people our age start coming into power?
Anti-socialist, pro-gun, pro-constitution. Done. I
I
think
thi-
that's like the focus.
I think the anti-socialism is something that our generation is definitely starting to push into, and definitely realizing the ramifications of it, seeing what's happening in Venezuela, seeing what's happening in other parts of the world. And then,
Cuba.
Yeah.
Completely forgot
Literally,
about that.
I'm sorry to interrupt
No,
you,
go
but
ahead.
one of my friends, Elisa, she's the vice chairwoman of the Republican National Hispanic Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
Her grandfather was a political prisoner in Cuba.
Yeah.
Doesn't get a story out because why? Well, I don't know. Maybe if you start telling people, hey, this is what happens in these countries,
Yeah.
political prisoners, can I tell you about this? They're like, oh, that doesn't go for what we want to push here.
And
in this
really,
country.
it's the young Hispanic population and the Hispanic
Conservative movement.
conservative movement that is going to be the future of the Republican Party, because they already align, all the values already align when it comes to the Republican Party, when it
100%.
comes to religion, when it comes to family values, when it comes to understanding the ramifications of socialism
Yeah.
and what it's done to multiple
They are
countries
gonna
in South
be
America.
so mad when a gang of not an actual gang. I have to be careful saying that. I'm not
Yeah.
stereotyping, but when a metric ton of people come out and vote for the president, their heads are going to explode. It's going to be hilarious, and it's going to be black conservatives, black or Hispanic conservatives, white, and we're going to just be, hey, we're American, we're here
Yeah.
to vote.
Well, because it
And
leads
you-
into.
and I'm sorry for that,
No, go ahead.
but you know that's coming because you
Oh, it will.
see the
Yeah.
Democrats and the media are afraid because they're having these town halls. They're so specific. Did we think that the Democrats were going to lose the LGBT, RST alphabet, whatever, like communities that they
when
were
the
gonna
log
vote.
cabin Republicans came out, I actually talked to the spokesman of that. He was like, I've never received so much like death mail from like liberal gays in my life. And like, I know this guy out here, he runs a big page. It's called Brokeback Patriot.
Yeah.
Kind of funny. But the LGBT community is over it.
Yeah.
They're not about it either. And it's frankly coming down to, are you pro or against socialism?
Yeah.
And do you love your country or not? And I think that's what people are
Yeah.
voting on.
And
They don't
that's
care
what's
about the
gonna
social.
that's gonna bring all these communities together
Yep.
with the Hispanic vote, the Black vote. Again, we've talked about this before. You get to 15%, you win every election in the
Yeah.
United
Oh, and
States.
with Kanye West, what he's doing?
Yeah.
Love it.
He's going to Chicago, Detroit, DC. I mean, like, if it's a lower income area, he's going to, because he's smart. He realizes that religion is not political, but it's reminding people,
Well,
hey, these are your
it's
values.
becoming
Yeah.
political, though. I mean, like when people want to either again stifle what you're doing or what you're teaching people. I mean, like that's politics and religion do
Is
end
that
up
going to
mixing. but-
transition to the 501c3?
No,
steps
I
of
don't
the
have.
churches
I
here?
didn't even have a transition for anywhere. I was
We
just
know
gonna
you
say
Actually,
don't.
that
We
works,
actually
though.
know.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
you brought it up, right?
Okay,
So there we
well,
go.
I'll
Transition.
let
on.
you transition then. Go ahead. What was it?
Oh, well, we know how good my transitions are. They're not. They are not good. But, I think one of the things is, so I think for me, it is important to separate
Yeah.
politics from religion.
Yeah.
I think it's
Separation of
very-
church and state is
Yeah,
pretty good.
Yeah,
I
it's
just-
right up there on our list.
Yeah.
However,
It's
it's
important,
not
we can't
in
do it.
any legal documents whatsoever, but it's fine.
But that's okay, yeah. And maybe not a full separation, but just enough that it shouldn't be our basis, right, as a Republican Party. It just doesn't work. But now, so what was his name? Robert.
Yes,
Robert.
Robert.
Yeah.
Robert O'Rourke.
Robert.
So, when he came out and he said, if you don't support gay marriage, you're going to lose your tax exemption rights to the churches.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, my mind was just absolutely blown.
That's, again, forcing your ideologies onto people.
Yes.
Robert
I-
doesn't
Yeah.
have the right to say that.
I don't know what Robert wants anymore. And
He's just trying to be viral.
He is
That's
just throwing
exactly
things
what
out
it
there
is.
at
He
this
is
point.
really-
just trying
I'm
to
gonna
get out
take
there.
your gut. Really?
If
Yeah.
you're polling at 0%, there's
Yeah. You
no
gotta
way
say
in
something.
hell,
Yeah.
no way in hell, since we're talking about religion, that's going to happen.
When
So.
you
Yeah.
get Ben Shapiro saying that you're not like he's gonna wait, like come take my gun.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro, the most non-threatening gentleman on YouTube, saying that, I'm like, then you really have made enemies everywhere. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, and the thing is though is that
I
one of
love
the
Ben.
things
I do too.
one of the things he says is that all the Democrats had to do to win this election was just come out and be normal and come out and
But they're not
be
being
somewhat
normal.
moderate, and they
Like-
probably would have won, but they just absolutely did not
You
come
got
out and do that at all.
Sanders,
They're going-
Warren,
It's
Kamala.
like,
I met Kamala. That'll be a separate one, separate topic.
oh,
on
we
Kamala.
can go there.
I mean,
talk
just
about it,
they're
yeah.
so far removed from, I think, normal
Yeah.
people to where they've really tried to become these B-list celebrities, and that
Yeah.
they've forgotten, one, what their jobs are, and two, that they're elected representatives, not that we serve them or want to take selfies
Yeah.
with them. And so they've really just become disconnected from what the American people want, which is why President Trump won in 2016.
Well,
Yeah.
they want the same accolades that Trump had before he became a president. Before he got into politics, he was very popular. He was a cultural icon almost. I mean, every rapper was talking about living the life of Donald Trump. We can go back and we have the lyrics, so we could easily go there. And they want to emulate that now. They want to be the superstars. They want to be popular, and they want to be able to hang with everyone else. And you can't. You're a
Well,
politician.
they're jealous of the social media followings now too.
Oh my
like
gosh.
I mean,
They're
that's big.
stifling. I mean, Don Jr. posted this a while ago,
Yeah.
but they are literally preventing, if you are conservative, they will not allow you to grow your social media. I think I've been stuck at 114K since the NRA tweeted me, and that was like it. I was like, goodbye, Twitter. Like I got on some ban list, some blacklisted Twitter.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's sad, but it's true. And I think that, where we're stifled, there are smaller profiles that come up, and like we like to help them out. So I think that you're seeing a lot of grassroots activism on
Yeah.
the digital side with conservative millennials and Gen Zers. So that'll be kind of good to see the
Yeah.
takeover take full effect moving on into
I
2020.
don't want the government to, and again, I don't, as a Republican in small government, I don't want the government to have to get in there, but they're going to have to when it comes to Twitter,
Yeah.
when it comes to Facebook and all the other ones.
and-
They're going to have to. Even YouTube is having this issue now with Google.
YouTube definitely has the issue, yeah.
And again, I don't like the idea, but it's going to have to happen.
Well, so for me, and like while we're sitting here, and you're obviously you've seen what's happening at the social media level with the shadow bans and all that kind of stuff, and I work in digital media, and what I see is that people like to put their blame at like Facebook and Instagram, whatever. But what I see the biggest problem is that you have all of these other corporations that are kind of coming together and working as like a monopoly, and you've got your PayPals and your Googles and all these other things that are working it down the line, and they're stopping people from monetizing their own following.
You need a group of like about 15 people to get a couple good lawsuits and clean house. I think if that took place, no one's going to be trying to censor anyone anymore. If you're paying out through the nose billions of dollars, guess what? You just
But
want
then-
to give everyone.
I
That's
know
the
that
thing, but then-
Crowder is starting has a
He has a
lawsuit.
lawsuit. There's a ton of people that are actually PragerU's on an ongoing
Yeah.
lawsuit
Yes.
with YouTube, and I actually I'm going to be launching actually a docu-series with Prager here pretty soon. So there is a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, but again, they don't talk about that.
Yeah.
because-
I agree with you. The only way these companies will ever change their motives is if you hit them in the bank. That's
Yeah.
all that matters. Again,
Go
Well,
for the wallets.
And,
all
and,
about
and,
the money,
and
baby.
Zuckerberg's changing his tune really like the last week or so, right? After Warren said that he was going to break them up, he's meeting with Donald Trump the next week, and he's like, well, I don't think we're going to do anything about these Facebook ads that everyone's complaining about because again, they make so much money off of them. And,
but
and they also,
Pocahontas is also the biggest two-faced person on
Yeah,
earth.
didn't she get caught for lying about her getting fired while she was pregnant? And well, I mean the native thing, but now the pregnancy thing. We're just gonna add it to her list of don't vote for what and why.
And I went on record saying this on the last podcast. I think she's going to win this time because of what's happened
primary.
Yeah,
in the primary.
I think she'll be with the and I say that because I see two things. One, I think that they're gonna try to play the female victimization card with Donald Trump, showing that he's attacking another woman like they tried to do with Hillary Clinton. But also, too, of all the candidates, she's somewhat like the more normal one, even though, I don't know if you guys saw her drinking video. That was
Oh, with the beer and
Love it.
cringy.
Hi.
Yeah. Come here, honey. Grab me a beer.
But I think that
No.
now when they try to attack Trump for attacking women, I think it actually enrages us more that they're trying to bring us all to the forefront of we all have to be mad at this, right? And I think that I get even madder at that and then want to support the person that they're attacking, right?
Yeah,
I want to give
empowered
Trump
him so
more
much.
support
Yeah.
when they attack it that way. And I do just want to come back around to the censorship of your video a little bit, just because when I saw your video probably a week or so ago when we started having you on, and so I think that the fact that they're holding that back from you is huge because you are going to miss a huge segment of people that got super excited about your video, right? When I saw your campaign, I was like, what? She is the shit. I was like, awesome. Yeah, bring her on.
Bleep that out.
Sorry. But I just think it's insane, the segment of people that won't get to see it and that won't get excited about your campaign.
Well, I think on a national scale, yeah, it sucks a little bit, right? But
do you tweak it a little bit so then it is able to go through their
No,
censors?
because they're still going to censor me anyways.
No matter what.
I'm conservative, and I'm the biggest threat in this district to take out the fundraiser of the DCCC.
Yeah.
So they're going to come for me, but it's fine because I don't go to the nation to vote for me. I go to the people of the county.
Yeah.
And so if I get the FaceTime, that's it.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about your district in St. Pete and kind of some of the issues that you're seeing over there and some of the things that you're going to be concerned about if you do represent the district?
So for one, I have the I call it the meat and potatoes Republican issues. Obviously, I'm 100% behind the Second Amendment, and I don't know if I have time to talk about how long do we have left on this show. Do I have time
Do
to
as
talk
long
about
as you want.
Yeah.
So basically, long story short, really how I became politically active is, about when I was 20, I was stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, and I had a home invasion experience who ended up being my landlord that really freaked me out to the point of I was not even able to sleep at night. It was really here in Florida when I came down to Hurlburt Field that I got my concealed carry. So that really is what empowered me and made me feel safe again, right? But leading up into that, at 9 years old, I walked into an armed robbery. I was with my dad. At 12, I had a cousin that was shot by her gangbanger boyfriend. It was not a good experience. And then at 16, there was actually a school shooting on my campus between a black and a Chicano gang. And so I had grown up in this area where you would think that with those stories and those experiences that I would be anti-gun, but I realized early on it's not the gun that's the problem, it's the people that's the problem. And so that experience, in addition with the home invasion, really made me become, I think, one of the more outspoken female advocates for the Second Amendment through my personal experience. It wasn't through statistics, which, by the way, a lot of the stats do show that my argument's right and correct. But the point is that those life experiences is really what made me become outspoken, because I realized that there's other women that are in situations that might become victims, and it's really the Second Amendment a firearm that makes it the ultimate equalizer, right? If I'm sitting in my home and I have a 200-pound dude break in, is pepper spray going to do the job? Highly unlikely. It's going to be my handgun that's going to do it. And I hate to be morbid, but I was in an experience, or I had an experience that really could have left me dead. And so that was really my transition into why I'm the Second Amendment. So obviously I'm big on the Second Amendment issues, veterans issues, homelessness issues, and then in addition to that, like I said earlier, I worked with an organization called Force Blue, so I really am big on the oceans and really here with the algae bloom and the red tide. I mean, that impacts local business. It's horrible. It puts a damper in tourism.
And one of the things I was going to ask you about, and because I don't think it's nearly talked about enough, but I think it's the biggest issue that St. Pete has right now. I mean, they've been dumping literal sewage into the
and when
into
it
the
rains,
bay.
it's worse.
Yeah.
And when it rains, it's worse.
They've been dumping literal sewage into the bay day after day, year after year, and it's like and the mayor, who's a Democrat, had just got an environmentalism award like 6 months ago from Bloomberg.
The problem is,
it's nuts.
It's nuts, and then the problem is too is you want to go ahead and tax people, right? You want to tax the small businesses, which will cripple local economy because you're trying to push this green incentive. First of all, it should be a tax cut, not pushing for more taxes onto the local businesses. And I have gone and I've talked to people, and I talk to them. I say, hey, I try to do the whole thing. Hey, I'm running for Congress, but when I said that, people got freaked out and they didn't want to share their opinions with me because people are very polarized on politics right now. So I just asked them, hey, like if you could fix one thing, what would it be? And I can tell you about more than half the people I talked to, the first thing is they didn't want tax increases. They're like, I don't understand. Like, if I don't comply, I'm going to receive a fine.
Yeah.
Like, are you serious? You're going to kill local business. And then guess what? Local businesses go down. People are out of jobs. That creates poverty. Then you're going to end up like San Francisco. And San Francisco is not a hot commodity right now. So if you want to have that happen in St. Pete, probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, and we just recently increased our taxes in Hillsborough County, so we're right
and
there.
I shop outside of Hillsborough County now.
Taxes are never
like
the
shopping.
solution. Big government coming in is not going to ever fix the problem better than the individual can. So I think that's a friendly reminder to people. But again, too, like you have people pushing, like the gentleman I'm running against, Charlie Crist, for red flag laws. And when you actually read the verbiage of what these red flag laws state, if you care about the veteran community, you should be very concerned because PTSD is considered a mental condition.
Yeah.
And with these red flag laws, if you suffer from a mental condition, you can't own your right to own firearms. So tell me why that's the American thing to do. You're fear-mongering people, and that's not going to fix the problem.
Is there anything else that Charlie Crist has done recently that
No,
you
he's
think
done
is
nothing right. In fact, frankly, seriously, the guy takes pictures with veterans. He takes pictures with minorities. Done absolutely nothing for either group.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's obviously been a longtime staple in Florida politics and switching parties.
Didn't
And
we meet him at the airport?
We did meet him at the airport.
Funny story. I'm sorry, but we were coming back from D.C. and Anibal recognized him, and we met him at the airport. And then they went to go introduce me. I had no idea who he was. I asked him if he was from Massachusetts, and just kind of like hey, I don't know anything
I knew
about
him when
you.
he was a Republican, and I have not spoken to him since. And so I cannot say anything in that part.
But then we took selfies.
We did
and got on
not,
the
but we did
plane.
not post those selfies.
We didn't. We didn't.
We were polite Floridians.
but I
I just had no idea who he was.
But that's the issue we have in
That's
Tampa,
true.
right? Like we have Kathy Castor, and she's really done very little since she's been in Congress. And I mean, with Charlie
people-
Crist, it's like, what have you seen him do so far?
No,
And
nothing.
And
In
have you seen
fact,
him do anything that's detrimental?
Here's what excuse me, I'm gonna do it. Pisses me off. He just said that he wants to be an advocate for veterans. He posts pictures with veterans. Okay, I am a veteran, and guess what? You voted to give illegals health care over veterans.
Yeah.
You voted for red flag laws that target veterans. So let me tell you how I feel about your policies and veterans. You can get your ass out of office.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think again, there's a reason why there's 4 Republicans and trying to take that seat
Oh,
from him
yeah,
because
and
he
it's,
just doesn't. He
yeah.
just. I mean, he's not doing it, and he's just again. He's been a lifetime politician. I mean, this guy can move around from seat to seat and better than many other people in the country. So I'm glad to see somebody that's viable as an option coming in and sitting down and saying like, we're not gonna put up with it anymore.
And that's the conversation that we've had as young Republicans, is that they put up these Republican candidates that have no chance. They have no connection whatsoever. They're not likable. They're not warm. They're not whatever. And they try to run them. And we tell them like, look, you have to put someone viable into that position to be able to run. And just having 2 seconds talking to you, we realize how quickly it is that you connect with the people, you connect with that group, and we truly understand the purpose of why you're
Well,
running.
I will have this as a disclaimer. I was not casted like AOC, so there was not a casting call for me. I had to work for this, but I promise.
Did you
I'll do
bartend
better.
before this?
I did not bartend. I waitressed. I did waitress in college a little bit, so
Yeah.
I am a working person.
That's good. That's good. So I mean, is there anything else that you guys wanted to kind of ask her about as far as like policy positions that you're looking into right now, or something that you might be running on as a campaign, or?
Oh, yeah, see, you're asking them to ask me.
Or either one.
Oh, okay.
Either one. I mean, I'll let you guys.
If you guys really want to see like kind of my meat and potatoes, going back to nationally, I'd like to pass I want to pass comprehensive immigration reform. I'm huge on that. There is one thing that I think a lot of people forget about. So for a really long time, and I'm just going to plug this because it's comprehensive immigration reform, not Mexican reform. And I say that as like literally a Mexican American. I'm not like anti-Mexican, but here's the thing. You have people that have worked as interpreters for the United States and SOF units around the world. And these people were put into visa lotteries to be able to come here. I'm sorry, but if you put your life on the line for this country, you should be given priority in the immigration process. One of my husband's old interpreters, really, really nice man. Actually, my husband and I never had a wedding. We eloped actually. But he sent me a traditional Afghan wedding dress. And he was decapitated because ISIS found out that he was an interpreter and he was killed. And so these people are the ones that should be, and he was waiting for his papers to come here. So why is it fair that someone can just walk in through the southern border? You have people like this that are actually doing good stuff, saving lives overseas, and that develop these connections with us. Why is it that they're put, not to the front of the line? So that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to put in there that a lot of people don't realize. There's really good people waiting to come here. It should be merit-based.
We should have. I mean, we've covered this topic before on the podcast, but I mean, it really needs to be comprehensive reform. I mean, I think that, building a wall sounds like a really good tagline and something to scream at rallies and stuff like that, but it's not the entire picture, right?
But it is the first step.
The first step is comprehensive
is
border
is
security.
building is secure. And again,
it's a step.
And that's why I don't understand Democrats. It enrages immigrants that have already come to this country to see how blatantly disrespectful they're being for those that work the system.
They have used DACA recipients so bad, it's not even funny. I mean, like, I'm sorry, but that in itself, like, yes, let's end DACA. DACA encourages people to come here. It does nothing for these people. These people are forever in limbo. But for argument's sake, these people have assimilated. Some of them don't even speak Spanish if they are. So let's end the program, but like, do something to where we're not deporting these people right back, because honestly, this is their home. And that was something that both establishment Democrats and Republicans allowed to happen. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, I want to deport no, that's not what I'm saying. But like, you have to have a zero tolerance stance on illegal immigration, because people will try to come here if you don't. And when they try to come here, that's when they're hurt in the process. And people forget these arguments. So I really do try to remind people. I mean, I could talk on the trafficking, I could talk on the drugs. That is a real issue that we have here. And honestly, it is connected to an open border. You talk to the Border Patrol agents there. I've been down to the border 3 times. And at the sector of border I went to, you had, 3,400 bodies littering the desert of people that have died making the crossings. That's not good. And that's because you have media, you have politicians saying, come on over, we'll give you all the benefits, because they want to get a voting demographic. They don't give a crap about this.
They don't.
No.
The
if they did, they would have solved it. Yes,
the Democrats don't care at all. And that's the most enraging part about this conversation when it comes to immigration reform that I've been talking about forever, is that Democrats don't care. They just want a voting block.
And
that's
if someone like that has a mic, they take it away, which is why I've been stifled every step of the way. Today, I'm one of the largest conservative Hispanic activists in the country. And every step of the way, it's just like, oh, you're offensive. You're racist because you believe in legal immigration. I mean, the whole racism thing is, I've had my friends that are like literally black and they're like, you're a white nationalist. Like, what is this name calling? You guys are so programmed to where you can't even see the long-term outcome of an effect of what it's happening, not only people here, but people on the other side.
And people that have lived it. And people that have lived it.
So like you said, you've been an activist for a little while now, and you've toured the country. And
I still do. It's like my side job.
Yeah, exactly. So what is the craziest story that you have from all of those experiences?
From Border Patrol agents,
and not just Border Patrol agents, could just be fans at events or anything like that.
One of the stories that really stuck with me on the whole immigration topic, it came from my friend Art Del Cueto. So he's actually one of the spokespeople for the Border Patrol Union, and he said that he had come across a small caravan of people. So they had intercepted a group of about 20 men, and then 20 women a little bit farther down the border, but they were related. And when they came across, they obviously arrested them, and they had them separated. And one of the women was uncontrollably in Spanish, he was like, "What's wrong? Tell me what's going on." And she's like, "Where are our children?" He's like, "What do you mean, what children?" And so what had happened was the coyotes separated the men from the women from the children, and made the men smuggle, and same with the women. But they said, okay, well, if you can get this across without being captured, we'll reunite you. So they got captured, and to date, they never knew what happened to those children. So it's like you have this really awful cycle of like, this is happening not somewhere else, like literally on the other side of our border, because we're allowing it to happen, because you have people that are using their profiles for, you know, a divisive message because they want to stay in office, not because they actually want to fix the problem. And that's probably like one of the most horrific stories today I've heard, really, at the border thing. Now, the craziest thing I've ever heard was that I was at a debate in North Carolina, and I was on a panel. Actually, I wasn't debating. I wasn't supposed to be debating. I was on a panel to speak on immigration, and I had, I think, 50 or 60 protesters show up. And so I'm not going to like kick them out. I was like, okay, everyone get in line. We're going to talk about this. It ended up being a debate. But this one girl told me, and her parents are both constitutional law attorneys in D.C., and she said that the Second Amendment was put in place to oppress slaves. And so that was something that she was totally serious about. But I was like, tell me in the Constitution where it says that. And I don't know who told you this, but this is, again, through education, indoctrination that we're seeing. And college campuses now don't want to provide a free platform. So that was something that I really was able to learn and experience firsthand via Turning Point. And, you know, I'm forever thankful for that. And then recently I decided to take my position and then join forces with PragerU. So I'm going to be a co-producer on a series called Americanos, which is going to be on conservative Hispanics in the United States to really show the perspective of why we are conservative, but it's not just Mexicans, so you'll like that.
I really appreciate it. I think we've done about an hour now, so we're going to probably have to start wrapping it up. I'll just go around the room real quick and let you guys give any final statements for today. And again, you know, if you're a candidate for anything, you can give like a, you know, a final wrap up on
if you're a candidate, guys.
If they were gonna vote for you, like what would you what do you want to say to anybody as a final message?
So first of all, I need money. So go to
it's for real.
www.voteannapaulina.com. That's ANNAPAULINA, and there's a donate button. So go over there, click donate. I will be hosting some local events. Brock, my consultant, is back here. He's going to laugh at me, but I actually found a very awesome pygmy goat farm that I'm going to be having an event at, and that'll be really fun. So bring your families.
Goat yoga?
He's like shaking his head over there.
Are we doing goat yoga? Is that what
no
we're doing?
goat yoga,
Oh.
but they're therapy goats. So I figured it'd be fun to kind of bring everyone out there. But aside from that, I am obviously very conservative, but I'm willing to have a discussion. So you won't see me flip-flopping sides, and I'm the best candidate. So that's why you're going to vote for me.
So you're not going to switch Democrat on us
Nope,
halfway
that
through?
won't
or anything
happen.
like that?
No, I like my guns and my country too much for that.
All right.
Very nice.
Did you guys have any announcements for anybody?
No announcements on my side. I just wanted to say thank you very much for joining us today. It's been outstanding. I am so excited to just see like a young female, and especially with the Hispanic and conservative running, and it's really exciting. And I just wish you all the luck and hope that as the young Republicans, we can do what we can to help you out with that run.
Yeah, and so my final announcements are going to be that we do have our next Tampa Bay Young Republicans meeting is going to be October 28th, 6:30 p.m. at the Barrymore Hotel, and we're going to be doing like a state of the city type of event where we're going to probably have some city councilmen and a few other elected officials come and kind of just discuss some of the local issues that are going on in Tampa, different side of the bridge, but you know. It's still relevant to the district, and if you're interested in getting more involved, if you are an elected official or running for any positions, and you want to come and sit down with us and have a conversation like we were doing tonight, we're happy to have you, and we can definitely have that discussion. So please feel free to reach out to us, and then I really appreciate everybody that sits on our Facebook Live and puts up with any technical difficulties that we have and still actually manages to watch our show.
Yeah, you guys showed a lot of love today.
Again, we are getting better and better every week, and at some point we're going to be running this like it's like it's Fox News, right?
Legitimate one.
It's,
we do have one more announcement.
Oh, we do?
Florida Young Conservatives of Energy Reform are kicking off their Tampa Bay reception October 17th, which is this Thursday at 6 to 8 p.m. They will be doing it at the Dubliner Bar, 2307 West Azeel Street. It's a free event, so drinks, food, and everything else is on the house.
Yep.
Do you need to register for tickets?
You do need to register for tickets, and we'll put the link on the comment section.
Yep, we will do that. And then, do you guys also need volunteers yet or anything like that for the campaign?
Oh, plenty, yes.
Yeah.
In fact, there's actually on my website, voteannapaulina.com.
Yep.
You can click the volunteer tab, fill out that information. We are looking for anyone and everyone, pending you're conservative and Republican.
Yep, yeah. So we've got lots of young Republicans on here. So if you're looking to get more involved with the campaign, I think this is a great one to get involved with. And please,
I need door knockers.
Door knockers. we we'd probably again, like you said, could use anybody that wants to come out and dedicate their time. So thank you guys for watching. We'll be back again next week.
Free Hong Kong.
Free Hong Kong. Free Hong Kong for democracy.
And this is the right platform.
This is the right platform.
This is the right platform.
Yeah, we may or may not be banned in China next week. Thank you.
Bye.
Grit, determination, love of country, conservative values, fight. That's what I learned growing up. I had to. I'm Anna Paulina Luna, Air Force veteran, proud conservative Latina, warrior for our values, our Constitution, and our country. And now I'm running for Congress. Where I grew up, kids couldn't just leave. We had to fight our way out. My grandmother died of heroin use. My family fought addiction. Many of them ended up homeless. But my mom, she's my real hero. She raised 3 kids through a string of abusive relationships and still put herself through law school. That's fight. I knew to get out, I'd have to fight too. So I did. I joined the Air Force at 19. Immediately, my drill instructors underestimated me, but believe me, I proved them wrong. I graduated basic training, top of my class, was elected president of the Airmen's Council, and was the first person selected for early promotion. And the Air Force is where I met my amazing husband, Andy, an Air Force special operator who's earned a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star. When he was shot in Afghanistan, it really opened my eyes to the hardships our veterans face when they come home. I saw firsthand how previous presidents had put our fighting men and women at risk, and I knew that supporting President Trump was non-negotiable. As you can see, I'm sure as hell not a politician. I won't ever stand here and lie to you. On immigration, common sense is to first secure our border. But career politicians care more about getting reelected than doing the right thing. The stakes are high. But like you, I will never back down from this fight. My mission is clear: to protect life, our borders, our families, our God-given rights, our country. I'm Anna Paulina Luna, and I approve this message.